If you're in the market for an HDR monitor in 2025, well, you're probably looking at an OLED because not only do you get infinite contrast ratios and super fast response times, but fellas, let's face it, OLED is the best looking technology you can get your hands on today. And as someone who does get their hands all over monitors, whether they like it or not, well, I, like you, have been asking the question, where are the mini LEDs? So I decided to do a quick checkup, and because it's Prime Day, I found a ton of great budget mini LED options. But one thing I did notice, and by the way, I will have some affiliate links to them in the description below, and go ahead and take a look, because, for example, I did find one for about $255 for a 2K 180Hz HDR 1000 mini LED monitor. That is a crazy good deal, and I found several other really great deals as well. But in any case, that is besides the point. Let's talk about mini LED in general, because I have not been seeing really many, or honestly any, new flagship mini LED monitors, and I'm wondering to myself, what is going on? So I actually reached out to a number of contacts, and I've been talking to people, and while there are some companies that still do share some interest in developing better and better mini LED displays, it seems like the majority of people see OLED as the future, and I can't blame them. And the reason for this is because, well, I believe it has to do with not only the cost of producing mini LED, as although mini LED is cheaper, it's not cheaper enough for them to make them in the specs that they want to compete with OLED, but also mini LED has some issues that are very, very apparent on the desktop that simply aren't as noticeable when it comes to TVs. As you might have noticed that TVs, well, on that side of the pond, we do see some massive advancements with mini LED technology, and it's just not really translating over to the desktop. And so while we do have some very good and very affordable mini LED displays in the entry-level range, it seems like they kind of start to fall off once you get over kind of a mid-ranged mini LED. You can get a good 4K mini LED, but if you want to spend more than $600, right now mini LED doesn't seem like the way to go, and companies are betting on that continuing. In fact, kind of off the record with my conversations, it seemed to me that some people believe that OLED is here to stay and mini LED is probably not going to be coming back in a big way to the desktop. And let's face it, fellas, I think that's the right choice, because when you get blooming on the desktop following your mouse cursor, and the one really big advantage of mini LED, brightness, isn't going to be as big of an issue on desktop as it is with TVs, well, it just seems like OLED is the way to go, because especially for gamers looking for the absolute fastest gaming monitor on the market, that's again going to be an OLED monitor, as unfortunately mini LED will never ever be able to compete with OLED when it comes to the actual pixel response time. Even if they do go ahead and find a way to get black frame insertion working on a mini LED with VRR on PC, which I think definitely could happen, I just haven't seen it yet, well, unfortunately, OLED is still going to have not only a great and probably even better motion performance type of experience versus mini LED, but it's going to do it without any issues whatsoever. You're not going to get crosstalk, and there aren't going to be any compromises. Everything in motion on OLED is just going to be much, much faster. And the higher and higher refresh rate we go, the difference between an LCD-based technology and OLED are only going to become more and more apparent. Whereas on a TV, which you'll typically only be hooking up to watch movies and play console games, although there are definitely people out there like myself who are crazy and use TVs as monitors, well, the difference between mini LED and OLED as a TV, well, these shortcomings aren't as apparent, and the increase in brightness as well as much better price point of mini LED at those larger sizes makes it a far better option for a lot of people out there. Although I still do believe the OLED is king even on TVs, just comes at a great cost. Whereas on the desktop at these smaller sizes, it seems like the cost savings going to mini LED just aren't translating enough for it to be worth it. So if you're asking the question, where is mini LED, honestly, it seems to be basically reserved for budget options with slightly lower zone counts, and the type of mini LED we would need to dethrone OLED quote unquote on PC would be something that not only has black frame insertion likely, or at least some sort of panel technology that's very, very quick, but you would also need something that has at least 20,000 dimming zones, as I have shown in a previous video, where if you have 20,000 zones working perfectly, you can get near OLED type of visuals. But also with those 20,000 local dimming zones, and keep in mind the best mini LED monitors today have about 1,000, so you'd have to have about 20 times more local dimming zones. You would also have to be able to actually, well, control those zones very, very well. And in a monitor where you're trying to do things as fast as possible, that is incredibly difficult. So even if they were able to get an enormous increase in zone count up to, say, 20,000 zones and RGB mini LED, well, I think they would struggle to control them. So although this perfect mini LED, I hope it does come down the road at some point in time, and we just have to sacrifice a little bit of speed to get the best visuals possible. I don't see a 20,000 zone 4K 240 Hz RGB mini LED coming anytime soon, but hey, I could be wrong, and if you think I am, let me know in the comments below. But for everything else display related, make sure to get subscribed here on The Display Guy.